Joko's probably gonna punish us for even letting them in the village.
Alright, well, last night, Long Live the Lich did indeed go live at around about 5 o'clock. You guys saw the trailer last week and the headline announcement of a few big features, such as exploration to one of the last Elonian Guild Wars 1 locations, that being the domain of Kourna, an entirely new mount coming with Living World, a new Fractal, and all that good stuff. Well, it is in-game now, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the patch notes and exactly what we can expect. This isn't going to be all-inclusive and exhaustive of the entire patch, because frankly, the Living World releases that the devs are doing now are huge. So, there will be several videos coming out throughout the week talking about the different things that are a part of it. Starting off, I just want to let you guys know tomorrow with the Beetle, which as I record, I haven't actually gotten yet. So we'll do the Beetle, then we'll do a video on the Fractal, which yes, you guys said very loudly and clearly, it is indeed a Dwarven themed Fractal, and several other things. But we can look at a lot of the new information that's come out and talk in general about other stuff that came with the patch here today. Just to be very clear, there won't be any spoilers in the footage, and you can feel comfortable linking this to anyone else or treating it as a completely spoiler-free video. If you really scrutinize tiny things, you might be able to make small speculations, but it's really not about the story. What you're looking at in the background is me exploring the new map Kourna, but not much else beyond that, so really don't worry too much. I will also note, I would have some more exciting and interesting stuff for you, but it has to be said there was a huge bug with this patch that plagued the pretty much entire population of the game for a long time. So the reason why I'm making this video as I wake up here on Wednesday morning instead of last night when I wanted to is one of the very first instances of the story which you've got to complete before you can get to the new map and really start diving into a lot of this stuff, was bugged so hard nobody could even get into it. It was really kind of fascinating because it meant that there were tons of Guild Wars 2 players standing around and having parties at just an odd random area of the Tomb of the Primeval Kings, much like we might have well over a decade ago in the original game, just waiting this time though for the goddamn story to unbug. And by the time the devs threw the patch in, I was fast asleep. I think it was gone midnight by the time that happened. So really unfortunate, and I guess that kind of hurts their initial release right there. I don't think we've seen such a major bug on a Living World release, right, as it's come out as this one that lasted quite as long as it did. And so yeah, really I've been playing catch up furiously today, and it's left me without the Roller Beetle yet, which I'm super pumped to actually get. Alright, so let's look at the notes and start diving in. They say, first of all, new story as we know. It's called Long Live the Lich. And their description of it, this is the closest we'll talk about the story here in this video, is Palawa Joko's menace has gone global, and the time has finally come to confront him. A coalition of new and old allies march on the Scourge of Vabi and lay siege to his fortress, which might be playing right into the Lich's hands. So this episode, really, from what I've seen so far, is a huge assault-themed thing, and it really is quite reminiscent, I would say, if you're a fan of Nightfall and our previous phrase into Alona in the original game. It's reminding me a lot of our siege on Kourna back then when we were with the Istani and we were aiming for Varesh Ossa and her demon minions at her side. So yeah, that's the story. Then they also say a new mount, the Roller Beetle, which was obviously originally announced and shown off, demoed a little bit in the original trailer. I haven't played it, but I've seen lots of players rolling around on it. It does look very fun. How reminiscent those breakable walls feel to playing Spyro back in the day is unbelievable to me. But here's what they say. Welcome to the new addition to the mount roster, the Roller Beetle. Roller Beetles are fast mounts that require great care and practice to bring out their full potential, and they can travel long distances with ease when mastered. Roller Beetles are adept at rolling up and down inclines, allowing them to naturally accelerate down hills and utilize ramps to achieve impressive airtime. Additionally, this mount features 2 movement skills that help it reliably reach and maintain its highest maximum speed. The primary movement skill rapidly boosts the beetle forwards, achieving incredible land speed in exchange for maneuverability. The second movement skill cuts the mount's traction with the ground, allowing a skilled rider to drift the beetle around dangerously tight corners when moving at high speeds. Play through the new map to earn your own Roller Beetle mount and unlock its associated mastery line. So, I mean, yeah, we're going to get all kinds of layered different things going with it. It's only really as the patch came out started to dawn on me just how complicated and interesting a whole new mount for Guild Wars 2 could be. You might look at that as a headline feature as a fan of any other MMO and think, oh, you know, it's just a slight change on things. But the way that Guild Wars 2's handled the mounts, there's going to be a lot to talk about here, and I can't wait to get it and do that dedicated video for you all. I'm very jealous of all the other players riding around on it. It feels a lot like, remember when Path of Fire first came out, and you got to see and be jealous of those rare few who had the Griffin? Yeah, I feel like that right now. So, next thing that they talk about as well, we saw in the trailer, was the legendary Warhorn, which comes in. However, on the official site, they did throw up this like press page. Here you can see. And on this, they had more lore about the legendary. Now, remember, since the big legendary journeys that they played with right when the previous expansion came out, Hearthstone, since they were sort of moved away from, we don't get too much lore about the new legendaries unless they're directly referencing something we already know about and is associated with a different body of work, such as when we got the Claw of the Kourna. We kind of know the lore of the Kourna because it already exists. But this is a new thing, and we do get a bit of detail, but it's on the official site instead of in-game. Here's what it says. Long ago, when Grenth's powers were raw and new, he created a weapon more potent and more sinister than he ever intended. The Warhorn Verderak, I still am not sure if I'm saying that right, calls upon the spirits of those who died in horrific battles and summons them as vengeful wraiths. When the horn fades back into the underworld after combat, its grisly attendants grasp for the souls of the newly slain, eager to conscript them into their ranks. I love this. It's kind of cool, and I can imagine how last episode the devs were possibly playing with whether they wanted to put the Claw of the Kourna in or this, because last episode was when we got Wing 5, right? Or was that episode 1? Anyway, you can see how it can matches with those different releases, and this almost might have been a little bit more fitting. Hopefully, if another wing of the raids comes out and it's still in the underworld, it will still kind of keep that thematic tie there a bit. But I really like the sound of this. You guys know me. I like stupidly edgelordy, dumb, grim stuff, and this sounds right up my alley. It looks a bit big and gaudy to match the lore to me, but hey, whatever. Grenth's cool. The only other thing I still am left to wonder about with the Warhorn is how it sounds. Now, I know at least one member of the Spud Club has already crafted it, and several people have been crafting it in Lion's Arch, but I haven't heard its sound effects just yet. Maybe you guys can contribute in the comments and tell me if it's any good. That'd be kind of cool to see. So, moving on from the Warhorn, we do have Fractals, and there's a big variety of different things going on here. First of all, headline feature, there's a new one. It's called Deepstone. It says here, join a pair of treasure hunters to discover why the Dwarven Vault of Deepstone has been abandoned for centuries. It's kind of funny, guys. Over the many years I've been making videos, sometimes I'll make a hiccup in a video. Like the trailer ones that I produce, I tend to do quite quickly, so they're more prone to having hiccups than anything else. But this one here of me jumping the gun and desperately wanting it to be Cantha rather than anything else, really, you guys have told me very loudly and very clearly, WP, they look like Dwarven assets. I get it, guys, and you were right. It is Dwarven. Less exciting to me, honestly, than if it had been Echovald, but obviously I was jumping the gun. Obviously I was a bit too excited about that. And there's exciting things about the dwarves, certainly. I'm looking forward to learning more from them, especially since, yeah, there was a bit of that in Path of Fire itself. So it makes sense that with the adjoining Living World season, they'd start throwing in more things using those assets. That's not all that happened with Fractals, though, and we'll have a dedicated video on how that feels and plays, and scales and whatnot. They did do some other stuff, so lots of general bug fixes. You can look on screen to see those right now. They also did quite a few tweaks, sort of, to the Molten boss encounter, so if you're curious about that, be sure to pause and read what that says. But here, I'll draw more specific attention to the underground facility. They say that players can now dodge, shadow step, and use portals while carrying the bombs during the use the detonator to blow up the door event. So this is where it splits to the left and right, and it is a bit of an annoying bit of the Fractals, honestly. I've never quite liked that, and so now you can actually see that an organized team that utilizes their profession skills and coordinates can get through that a lot more smoothly, and I think that that's in line with what good gameplay should be. You know, you should be rewarded for knowing your classes well and being able to use that stuff, so I like that. It's kind of a small thing for the devs to concede. I never really liked this idea that they were forcing you to do the encounter exactly precisely how they decide it should be done when they initially invent it. Like, let players be creative with their skills, and I think that that's kind of a cool change. They also say that the other side, the assemble a firing team, arm yourself with dredge mining lasers, and destroy the reinforced door. They say that that has been simplified. So rather than gathering 3 people at the door and then you all blow the gas at it, or what's supposedly a laser, and then they all blow up and you go back and then you do it again, they say each player can now just deal 9% damage to the door before they need to get another rifle. And again, I think that this just makes it a little bit smoother. They also add here that bosses will now more reliably follow their targets. I'm guessing that's the whole fixation mechanic at the end of the Fractal, which I think the fixation was working perfectly, but players would sort of have like a ranger pet on the boss, or one person would continue to melee, and that would trigger the bosses, especially the ice elemental, into these long, slow, winding animations where they'd stand still for ages. And that is a player skill issue, in my opinion, and you can work around that by just keeping away from the boss. But maybe they've now changed those animations to not trigger unless there's lots in melee or something, I don't know. But yeah, so underground facility, and then Singularities. They've had quite a few changes. Singularities now recharge all skills on cooldown when you get them. Lots of new ones have been added to various Fractals. Players can no longer interact with them while in combat. That one will punish me in some places, like when I play Nightmare Fractal, right at the end of Mama, going and grabbing the Singularity so you don't waste it on an early down. That kind of stuff won't be happening anymore. And they say that not only have they added new ones, but a lot of existing ones have been readjusted to new locations. Now, I haven't checked all the new locations, but classically when there's been a Fractal update, the devs have put them in easier locations, which I've always lamented a little bit. I liked that the Singularities encourage you to go to weird and different areas of the Fractals than you normally would, and it is a bit of a time investment. You could decide whether it's worth your time to go there or not, but they streamlined in previous patches. I guess they'll streamline even further. The last thing to say about Fractals, and we'll move on because I know not all of you listening to this video really play them, is the instabilities will now randomize daily instead of weekly. So this has been a while in coming. If you watch the dev posts over on the forums and on Reddit as people gave feedback and talked about this, I'm really looking forward to the daily randomizing. I think that will make, if you're the kind of person that has a couple of mates and you go in there and you use LFG and you do your T4s every day, I really think that they'll have so much more staying power as a form of endgame now that they're daily. I actually think that now, finally, after all these years since the concept of Fractals was introduced, with these at daily, they're now really in line with what I originally imagined and wanted them to be when the devs added them, in that they're this renewably exciting, changing thing perpetually there as endgame. And it's taken a long time through so many different iterations, random Fractals entirely, to what we are at now. I think retention of people at endgame as soon as they start trying Fractals and earning money from Fractals should go way up, which is only a great thing. Next, there is a section on SPVP, which my super love for has died away a little bit, but I'm still playing every day. That's kind of interesting. First, the Hall of the Mist. This is the 2v2 map that most people have forgotten exists entirely. Has had its spectator cams updated, and also they say the default builds have been updated, which the last time was a while ago. I don't know exactly what they've done, probably looked at meta battle and gone with those, but usually when they get updated, they're alright. Maybe I can recommend those to new players for the next short window before the meta shifts away again. And so, really, that's all the headlining stuff that they put in the patch notes. There is the Black Lion section, which, as always, I'm not that interested in. But key points, there is a new chest associated with a new map. Surprise, surprise. There's a new Black Lion set, which I actually really like. It's the Desert King set. There will be some footage rolling in the background. The focus is a cat and nine tails, which, I mean, come on, that's just badass. They've added some new glyphs back in, or maybe we could get them before, but they're rare drops from the chests. They've started adding Halloween items as well, which terrifies me. How is it already already Halloween coming up. But yes, they've got some Halloween stuff in there. The guaranteed wardrobe unlocker, you'll notice here, has been updated with over 100 new things from the expansion. They added some new mail carriers. Maybe I'm out of touch, but I can't remember how often they add new mail carriers. That seems kind of interesting to me. And that's really it. I mean, you guys can pause and see some of the other specific stuff if you like. Last but not least, Wiki has a little note here, which I'm sad about, but also happy about. Wiki also notes that the daily berry acquisition no longer counts in your home instance. So the story here is, when they added Bitterfrost Frontier, they added a selection of dailies for Bitterfrost Frontier, one of them being gather berries. Which was pretty standard to those maps, I think, at the time. But because when you harvest a berry plant, you've got so many berries, you basically just have to harvest like one bush, and you could complete the whole daily if that bush was in your home instance. So the idea of the daily, good design, is you're supposed to go to Bitterfrost Frontier, and it encourages players to play on that map and hang out there a little bit each day. But everyone was always bypassing it because they were just using their nodes in the home instances, myself included. So I'm sad that I now don't get that extra reward because they fixed this. But it's good design, so I guess that's honestly better for the game. So there you have it, guys. I'm sorry that there's not a little bit more for me to talk about here on this video, but that's the patch. That's really the state of the game, the big bug that hit everything. And this, hopefully you've seen it in the background, is a little bit of what Kourna looks like. Very grim and dark and ugly, but that might have just been because it was nighttime while I was playing. I will be back tomorrow for some deep dives into more specific nitty-gritty. Don't forget that there'll be new adventures. There'll be a new meta event. There's going to be new rewards. There was that awesome position rewinder in the last patch. There was all kinds of fun, weird, special things in the last patch, like the boats and the dolphins and stuff. I will be aiming to cover and talk about all of that on the channel, so do not be deceived into thinking this is it. There's a lot, hopefully, that will be going on, and I'll be talking about that very, very soon. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I'll be looking at the comments very closely on this video. If there's any big thing that you specifically think this would be a great video, let me know, and I'll see whether I can cover it. Cheers, everyone. See you soon.